That's an incredible visual. Leaves on the left before and leaves on the right after foliar feeding.
It's night and day. It speaks for itself.
That's amazing.
And you can see how healthy this particular mango tree is with the dark leaves, tons of flowers.
So good, yeah.
Just, keeping it healthy, keeping it happy.
Nice.
People forget that these are living things.
Yeah.
And if you're only watering them and you're only throwing a shovelful of manure at it once a year, that's not enough. Your trees aren't going to live, especially if they're not native, and especially in a harsh climate like ours, 118-degree temperatures, and then we get down to 25 degrees, poor soil, hard water, no humidity. You have to help the trees along.
Hey everybody, it's Jake Mace, the vegan athlete, and I'm here at Shamus O'Leary's Tropical Fruit Trees with Shamus himself. And I'm really interested in something that you do here, and it's called the foliar feeding. And you're basically going to be feeding your edible trees through the leaves.
Correct.
How do I do this? What do I feed it? And what are the benefits of feeding the leaves?
Well, the reason for doing this is that the foliage of a plant is just like the skin on our body. It has pores, and it takes in nutrients through the pores. When you're foliar feeding, not only is the plant getting food through the soil, but also through the back door, what we call it, through the foliage. And it is a quicker way to feed the tree. When you're in-ground feeding, sometimes it can take a month for the food to break down, but when you're foliar feeding, it's into the system usually in 48 to 72 hours. Also in places here like Phoenix, Arizona, where the pH is very high.
In the soil.
Correct. And it's 8 to 9, which is extremely high pH. The roots of the tree tend to lock up, and when they lock up, they do not accept nutrients.
So kind of like they're already full.
Correct. And what ends up happening is trees starve to death.
Wow.
And people will blame that on the climate, that the tree won't survive here, or what's the problem. And the reality is they just can't be fed because of the poor condition of our soil, because of the high pH. So I do a combination of in-ground feeding, and then I also foliar feed. And I foliar feed about every 2 to 3 weeks on average throughout the year. And I do it after the sun starts to go down, right about now, so it doesn't burn on the leaves.
Right.
It's very simple to do. I've got a backpack sprayer here that you can get at Lowe's or Home Depot. It is my bit of advice to invest in the nicer ones that are $60, $70.
Okay.
They're very easy to use. You can strap it on your back, pump with one hand, and spray with the other, as opposed to the little $10 jobs that you have to stop, pump, spray, and just
super
takes too long.
labor intensive.
Yeah, get one of the nice ones and you'll save yourself a bunch of hassle with
So you're foliar feeding about twice a month.
Correct.
Not in the middle of the day, because you don't want to have the sun heat up those droplets on the leaves, so at dusk. You're doing it to give more nutrients to the plant in case the soil is locked up from too high of a pH.
Correct.
And what are some of the benefits you see in the trees?
What you will notice with the plants, in fact, I'll bring you over here and show you.
Let's do it.
Actually, a very good example. This tree here is an ice cream bean tree.
Ice cream bean.
Very tropical. Does not like our climate in general. They do not like winters. They do not like a high pH. This tree here was about a year old when I planted it last summer, and it was about 6 foot tall. And you can see the condition of the leaves up to that point.
Yeah.
It was very nutrient deficient.
This is all the old growth.
Leaves are very small, pale, chlorotic, burned, and it wasn't doing very well. So I thought, let's put it in the ground and see if it'll do something different. I started foliar feeding this particular tree last October, November, and when it was about this height. And you can see the difference in the health of the leaves versus when it was not being foliar fed. It's night and day.
Difference. This is the before, this is the after.
And a side benefit of a healthy, happy tree is that they can take more extremes as far as heat and cold. This tree should not still be alive right now after we had 5 nights of high 20s in January.
Right.
Gave the tree no protection, but because the tree is healthy and well fed, made it through the winter, even continue to put new growth out through the winter.
Yeah, it's doing it right now.
Yeah. The small red leaves are all young, fragile leaves, and they should not have been there through the winter. But because the tree is happy, it's doing its thing. And when I saw that, I said, you know what, I need to get out here every 2 weeks.
I mean, that's an incredible visual. Leaves on the left before and leaves on the right after foliar feeding.
It's night and day. It speaks for itself.
That's amazing. So what are you putting inside of your spray?
Let me show you. Got it right over here. I kind of make a cocktail of a few different things. This sprayer here is a 4-gallon sprayer, so it takes 4 gallons of water.
Okay.
And the 4 products that I use, the first one is called HEP 35, which is a commercial product, only available to the trade. We have to buy it in large quantities. We do break these down for smaller resale for the homeowner to buy. Very small amount of this. I'll use maybe 2 to 3 ounces in 4 gallons of water.
Somebody can come by your place here and buy
Correct.
a smaller amount of this.
Yes, we have them broken down to 8-ounce bottles.
Cool.
So I will use that, and that contains a lot of micronutrients that are not available to us in our soil through just composting and mulching. Boron, manganese, magnesium, nitrogen, all sorts of other cool things.
That's all inside here.
That's inside there.
Cool.
And then in addition to that, I use a product called Sequestrine 138, which is a chelated iron, and that is good for greening up the leaves.
Yeah.
And this particular product, very nice because it actually helps lower the pH a bit.
It has like a red color, right?
Yes, it'll stay in your hand for a few hours.
Yeah.
But it lowers the pH up to a couple points over time, and you use very little of that as well, maybe a tablespoon to the 4 gallons of water.
Okay.
The third product I use a little bit of the seaweed extract, the liquid kelp. It's a root stimulator, and the side benefit of this is that if you're using it right before the winter time, the plants seem to be able to take a little bit more cold.
Nice.
So this is something that we generally go a little heavier with in October and November.
Okay.
The fourth product, I will add just a few drops of humic acid, which is good to help acidify our soil, and it also helps to bring the pH down a little bit as well too.
And what's inside this?
This here is an 8-ounce bottle of the cocktail that we make.
So they can buy this from you?
Correct. They're $10 a bottle, and you use only a ½ ounce per gallon of water. The average homeowner would probably use about a gallon of water when they're foliar feeding. So theoretically, this is about almost a year's worth of food. So at the end of the year, if you have half a bottle left, it means you have not been feeding enough.
So 1 tablespoon approximately per gallon.
Correct. Correct. And it's an 8-ounce bottle.
And where are you at? You're on the, would you say this is the west side of Phoenix?
Northwest Phoenix, 35th
Northwest
Avenue
Phoenix.
and Greenway.
Cool. Let's see how you do it.
Definitely. Just a splash.
Can I drink any of this stuff myself to improve my own skin and health?
If you'd like to try, we can find out. But I will let you answer that question.
I think that's a no.
From what I understand, it's not toxic.
Okay.
I've sprayed it on myself many times when I'm out here full.
Yeah, it's just,
it doesn't bother me.
It's seaweed minerals,
Correct.
trace elements.
I mean, it goes on edible plants and what have you, so.
Yeah. Would this be good for somebody doing like citrus or figs or things like
Any
that?
plants. I sprayed on the grass.
Wow.
Yeah, anything.
Okay, cool.
And you will start to see results generally about 3 weeks-ish.
After.
Yeah.
Cool. And probably really well in the new growth.
Yes, very much so. The backpack sprayer is well worth it. I know there are a few more dollars, but the small ones are really not worth the hassle.
I'm gonna go get one tonight. And you're also using a water filter that gets all the calcium out, huh?
Most of it. This is a universal filter calcium inhibitor made by Aeromist, and they're fairly inexpensive. They're about $12 a filter. I change mine out about twice a year whenever I see the end of it start to get dirty.
Cool.
And just screws onto the end of the hose, and it helps to take some of the junk out of the water. And
Preserve the microbes and
definitely. So this is my Ghostbuster pack.
And it says Roundup on it, but there's no Roundup.
No
inside.
Roundup in it. No, don't use any insecticides.
You don't do any chemicals here.
No. So you give it a few pumps there.
And that's it.
And that's it.
That's all it takes?
Now you also want to try and get underneath the leaves
Okay.
as well too, because from what I understand, is there's actually more pores on the underside of the leaves than on the top. So just kind of go through like that.
So you don't have to get it super dripping.
No, not at all.
Just coat it.
Yep.
And can this be sprayed on the fruit?
Yes.
Or the new flowers?
Yeah, it's not toxic.
Cool.
So you can spray it all over the plants. And particular plants, you'll see a bigger difference, such as Jaboticaba, longan, ice cream bean, sapodilla, more so than other trees. The bamboo, I don't notice a lot of difference with it. Mulberries, they don't seem to need it that much.
They're so vigorous anyway.
Correct. So there's some trees that will respond very quickly to it, and the other ones you're not going to really notice much. Lychees really like it. Mangoes become extremely iron deficient here. So the Sequestrine 138 product is very good for the mango trees in particular. So that's why I throw a little bit of the iron in there as well. A tree that is not well fed will attract things like the aphids and what have you. If the trees are healthy, they can fend off everything that Mother Nature throws at them.
So that speaks to the health of your trees.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And that's the lesson for today.